Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The More You Know. This evening, we're going to talk about something that I think you guys are going to enjoy. The issue on the table tonight is the issue between boys and girls. What is exactly the difference about them, or are they not that different at all? Let's find out tonight. Good evening, everyone, and I am back again here with my trusty whiteboard, and I shall be explaining to you tonight about the differences between male and female, but also the role that language plays in it. So I think you have all heard the saying that women are from Venus and that boys are from Mars. But is it actually true? Are we really that different that we really come from separate planets with no way of understanding each other? I say we find out. There are some obvious differences between men and women. Not only how they look, and especially after puberty, if you consider how drastically we change afterwards, but also just in the way we act, the way we speak, the way we communicate with people, basically a difference in anything. Biologically, as a puberty, like I said, we look different, but that does not explain why we act differently while when we communicate with other people. Researchers have found that yes, indeed, men and female brains are different, but it doesn't tell us why they act differently. So with that being said, let's find out what the reason for that is. One of the first things that you notice which is different between male and female is language. There are obvious differences, such as he and she, and his and hers. That's because one assigns someone who was born someone who's a female, and the other one says something about a male. These are, of course, obvious differences that we know from language, but another difference that can be identified or that we can see is, for example, with the word giggled. What would you say? Would you say he giggled or she giggled? Probably when I say he giggled, it sounds very weird to you. That's because from young age onward, we have learned that it's always she giggles and that he chuckles. It's just not manly for men to giggle. So I have explained why there is a difference and why it comes, but there's still the question of why is there a difference to begin with? I mean, why do all the adults say, no, you can't say giggles for a man? Why is giggled a female word and chuckled a man word? I mean, it's not like we have German where certain words are female or male. So, why is this? Why do we have this difference? Well, let's find out. In the past, girls and women couldn't behave or talk in a certain way because that was perceived as wrong by many people. In the early 20th century, between 1900 and 1920/30, women who talked too loud or too vulgar, which was using bad words or something like that, were considered to be not real ladies and actually really bad people, which you should avoid. As such, women were conditioned to behave and act in a certain way. Conditioned means that you learned to not do or do things. This trend has remained until nowadays, which could be explained for why women and men are different from one another. I have a question for you. Has an adult ever told you that you couldn't do something, even though you wanted to? If you're a girl, have they ever told you you couldn't play in the mud because you got dirty and it's just not ladylike? Or couldn't climb into trees because you might injure yourself, but let your brothers do it anyway? Or if you're a boy, have they ever told you that you couldn't, wear dresses because dresses were for girls and not for boys? Or play with dolls, even though they look so cute to you? If this is the case, you have experienced yourself the difference between gendering. For why exactly couldn't we do all of them? I mean, why couldn't girls and boys do the same thing? This term is of assigning a specific thing, such as a dress, a doll, mud, or tree, doing that is a term called gendering. Gendering is when you take an object, a phrase, or anything in particular and make it for a certain gender, inaccessible for the other one. If it's gendered toward a boy, then it's perfectly fine for that boy to do that. But if a girl does it, it's actually considered to be really bad and a shame if she does that. This might sound weird to you, but we do it all the time. Think about it. Boys can't wear makeup, and if they do wear makeup or wear dresses, they're called bad names, as well as girls who do boy things. It just doesn't really make sense. But why do we still do it? Why do we have gendering? I mean, it's not something that's a law for, that it says that if you do this, you must go to jail or something. So why do we still do it? Got an answer to that? Well, neither do I. So let's find out. Genderifying things is something that people have experienced for a long time. Making something female or male specifically has been done for a long time, but roughly the start of it was, well, let's say in the 1930s until the 1940s, when some people decided that, for example, razor blades should be made for men and women, and women were now having to go to shave themselves because having hairy armpits or something like that was considered to be not ladylike. Or how different colors during the World War were conceived to be bad, such as that pink was linked to the Jews at that point. This changed everything into genderifying things, and this is basically what started everything when it comes to genderifying. Why we still genderify nowadays in 2018, where you would think, oh, everything is over like that. Well, people like to be stuck in their own ways, but there's even a greater factor in all of this. That's called society. Society decides what you can do. Like I said, hairy armpits aren't good, and being fat is also considered to be bad in this society. Society decides just, okay, women have to wear dresses, and men can only play in the mud. That's basically how it's been going on for a long time. And people have never just thought of it to be different. This isn't something that is natural to us, as I explained before. This isn't something that we were born as. And yet people still think that this is the way it's supposed to be. So, there you have it. We've explored differences between men and women, and now it's up to you. Is there really that much difference between women and men? I mean, of course, we have the differences of how they look different, but apart from that, there's not really anything that separates the different genders. Except for, of course, the differences that we say of how we act and how we do and how we speak. But those aren't biologically made. They are implied, they are enforced by society. So what do you think? Do you believe that women and men are really that differently? Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.